Alright, so this is going to be the fifth part of this tutorial. We're going to be setting up the custom engine. I'll leave a link to the Discord server in the description so you can find this and follow along. We're going to be following Ninja Grime's tutorial, which is again based off of version 4. So what we're going to be downloading. I completely deleted everything, so this is hopefully helpful for those who haven't had this downloaded. I know it gives people a little bit of trouble in the beginning. So when you go to the server, you're going to find this in Rebirth resources. You're going to click the first link. I already have it open here. It's going to look like 404 if you're not signed in to GitHub and if you don't have your account linked to Epic Games. But I have this specific account already linked, I believe. So if I hit signing in, it will sign me in and then I'm able to see this. If for some reason you have an account that's not linked to GitHub, I believe you just have to go somewhere in your profiles or you log in. There's a guide on how to do it here, so I will also leave this in the description. But once we're here, we're gonna have to download these 3 zip files. This is what includes the entire custom engine, so they are pretty big, but we can start downloading the first one. Alright, so I have finished downloading the 3 zip files that come in this custom engine build. Make sure it's for version engine 4 since we're going to be doing dress code mods, but I have that downloaded. If we look at the Ninja Grime tutorial, if you scroll down a little bit where it talks about downloading the engine, once you do, we're going to go ahead and extract. I would suggest using something a little bit more powerful than just the default zip extractor, just because it takes much longer and sometimes it doesn't extract all the files that you need. So I'm going to be using WinRAR for this. So I'm just going to hit extract. As long as you have all 3 files in one folder, it should work to extract everything within all three files. So as that's extracting here, we can go back up and we can look at this that's talking about Visual Studio. I already have a part of Visual Studio installed. If I go to my Visual Studio installer, and while this is telling you that you're going to need 2017, 2019, and 22, it looks like when I had the engine originally installed, I only had 2017 and 2022 installed. It's also mentioning that you're going to need game development with C++ installed. If I go to the Modify tab in 2017 and I scroll down, I can see that I already have that ticked, so I guess that was important. And then it's also mentioning that you're going to need this Windows 10 SDK installed, which is 19041. I don't see that as an option here for at least Visual Studio 2017, so maybe that was important in 2022. I can see that I think I uninstalled and it was reinstalling, so I'm going to go ahead and hit resume install on that. Hopefully that doesn't get in the way of this extraction. We'll see. Alrighty, so while that's installing, I guess there's not much that we can do right now as we're waiting for this to extract. We're also going to need to download this, but I'm going to wait for one thing to download at a time. So I will be back once at least this Visual Studio community is done downloading. Alright, so it looks like Visual Studio, the community 22 version finished downloading for me, And the same thing with the Rebirth engine. It finished extracting, and now I have it in this folder. I remember when I was first downloading the first engine, it gave me trouble when I had folders in like multiple folders, which usually happens when you extract things. So I'm just going to move this folder out back into Rebirth Modding. That way we get rid of that like duplicate folder. All right, so now we can hopefully keep following this tutorial. So we downloaded all 3 zip files. Now we have to install the U project files. So if you go back to the server, that's going to be the second link. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and download that. It should be pretty quick. Alright, now that that's done downloading, let's go ahead and bring it over into the Rebirth Modding folder. Go ahead and move it there. Okay. One more thing. Let's go ahead and see if that Windows 10 SDK is installed here, and if we also have that CC Plus game component. Okay, so that's ticked on. If we look at optional, it looks like, which one did we need? Looks like we needed this 1.1904. Alright, so let's go ahead and tick that one on, and we can install while downloading. We'll say yes, and that's gonna go ahead and install. Alright, so we did this. We're on step 4. We downloaded that. Alright, next we have to set up the engine. So let's go ahead and find this. Let's go ahead and open it up. And we can go ahead and download this. Alright, and we'll move that again back into this folder. Alright, now that it's there, let's continue. Alright, so let's open up this folder. So let me move this over so we can see everything. Okay, so in here, let's see, we're gonna open up our Rebirth engine folder, which I believe it's this one. Yep. Alright, so we're gonna go to engine, binaries, Win64, and we're gonna drop that that exe we just downloaded. So let me open up another tab, find it here. Go ahead and drop it here. Okay. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and click this. I'm gonna say yes. It's gonna say registration successful. Alright, so now we're gonna go back out, and we're going to extract this zip file next. This, what is it called again? Final Fantasy 7R 2U project zip file. So let's extract. Alright, now that that's extracted, I'm not going to delete any of these files until I can actually open up the engine and actually pack my first mod file, just to be sure. But I'm going to open this up. Again, I'm going to pull it back into this Rebirth Modding folder just so I can get rid of that duplicate folder. And we're going to go ahead and, it says here, double click on the end project file. So it's going to ask us to, I believe, choose which version of Unreal Engine. If I hit this drop down menu, looks like I only have one, but let me make sure that I am choosing the correct build, because this may be the one that I don't know, had before. Let's see what it says here. Looks like it should be the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth engine, so maybe we're okay. So let's just hit okay and see what happens. Okay, so it looks like that worked at least. But we are still going to need this to finish downloading before we can actually open up the end project file. So I will be back later. Alrighty, so the Windows 10 SDK finished installing, and while I was gone from my computer, I see that my Unreal Engine, that end project opened up. So that's cool. It's compiling shaders. You might see this at the bottom where it says project file is out of date. Would you like to update? Always say no. Don't update it. It's going to take a while to compile shaders. So while it's doing that, let's go ahead and look at the tutorial given by YIIS in terms of how to do a dress code mod. There is a way to do, a regular mod like you would for any Unreal Engine game, but there's no need to do that. It takes longer to pack. You don't have as much flexibility in terms of how you can name things, where you can store things. So it's just better to learn dress code for this game. So let's go to the Rebirth Tutorials channel. We're going to scroll almost all the way down. Alrighty, so it's going to be here about creating dress code compatible mods. So let's go ahead and open this up. Again, the requirement is this version 4 of the engine, which is why we downloaded that one. It's also the latest version. Alright, so this tutorial is pretty simple, but I'll just talk while I'm walking through it. I'm going to go ahead and close this Visual Studio installer. Also, it's telling me that I can update both of them. I'm just going to hope for the best and hope that I don't have to update them. If for some reason this doesn't work, then I'll go ahead and update them. So I'm going to exit that out. See, it's almost done compiling shaders. Not yet, so I'll just wait until that finishes. And we can go ahead and start looking at this document. Alright. So again, this is going to be using something called AlpaKit. Again, the prerequisites are what we just installed, the custom engine build version 4, and also the new project files that we downloaded. Okay. Alright, so again, this is going to be using AlpaKit. If we open up the engine, we see it right up here. Okay, looks like we finished compiling shaders. So let's just dismiss this. We can go ahead and click this. Alright, so this is going to, for some reason, hold on, let me make this a little bit smaller. Okay, there, alright. Alright, so in terms of AlpaKit, let's just read. Alright, so it looks like there's some settings that we can change. One of them is that it will launch the game immediately after packing. I don't really think there's a need for that, but this copy mods to game is really helpful. So let's go ahead and click that. And then we need to choose where the exe of the game is. So we'll click those 3 dots. Again, you could go into Steam and you could find your game files by going to Manage, Properties, Installed Files, and then Browse. You can go ahead and copy this path. And back in here, we can go ahead and paste it. And we're just going to select this folder. Okay, that way it knows where to copy and paste those the package files in. Okay. Where were we? Close this. Okay. Alrighty, so we're gonna go ahead and hit on create mod, and we can go ahead and name it. So we're gonna call it Glen Pirate over Cloud. You can go ahead and write your name since this is the mod you made. And we'll leave this description empty. I don't think we actually do anything with that. We are gonna have to click this blueprint only for this green button to turn on. Okay. So once we do that, if you see over here, it created a new folder, and this is where we're gonna kind of put everything in here. Okay. Alright, so again, you can like edit this part. I don't think I ever did, so I'm not going to. So now that we're in this folder, we might need this Reunion Modloader. So let's go ahead and go into Nexus and download this really quick. So let me open up Nexus. Let me log in really quick. And if I click on this game and I go to my download history, if I scroll down a little bit, I can see that I'm going to need the Reunion Modloader and the Dresscode mod. So let's go ahead and open up both of these. Alright, this is the first one we're going to need, so let's go ahead and download. If you go to the Files tab, we are going to need, I believe, this file. Oh no, this one. It looks like this is the one that I downloaded before. So I'm going to go ahead and hit manual download, because I don't think this works with Vortex Manager. We've had people in the server ask before. It just doesn't work. If you scroll down, you might see this. You might think, oh god, I'm going to have to use this like hook program. You don't need to. If you just look right underneath it, it tells you that you can download the zip file instead, and we're going to put that in our mods directory. So that's what I downloaded, I believe. Yep. Oh, and we're also going to download this as well. So let's download the new version. It looks like I had the old version downloaded. Okay, now that we have both of them downloaded, we are gonna open up a file explorer. And since this was already where our game is, we're going to go to End, Content, Packs, and then this is my mods folder. I may have this installed already. What was it called? Game Instance Loader. I don't think I have this by name, so let's see. I don't see it here, so let's just go ahead and go back to my downloads. Let's extract this. Oh, let's go and see game instance. Maybe we do. Okay, yep. Alright, I see that this is here already. But you would go ahead and just copy this and paste it in here. I guess I can do that really quick. Go ahead and copy and paste. We can go ahead and replace the file. There we go. All good. Alright, the next thing that we have to do is with that other, let me go ahead and delete this. This other folder, let's go ahead and extract this as well. We're going to have to take both of these folders and we're going to put it in our, I believe our end folder. So let's go ahead and go back here. We're going to go back. So we see our end folder. Open that up. Looks like I already have this folder, but you would go ahead and create this mods folder, and then you would go ahead and paste in the two files that are in here, which are, hold on, let me get rid of this. Let's see, which are these two right here. Since this is a new version that I just downloaded, I'm going to go ahead and replace them. So I'm going to copy, and I'm going to go ahead and paste. Place the files. Alright. All good. So that is how we get the mod menu to work. You could go ahead and open up the game, and you can go ahead and hold down your stick buttons to make sure that it works. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that we have our dress code mod in. So I believe I already have this installed, but again, you're going to need that mod loader, which we just finished installing. And then we're going to need also the latest version of dress code, which I don't think I have. Maybe I do. Alright, so let's go ahead and download the newest version of this. If I go back here, I'm gonna delete this and extract these. We can go back to the description, see what it says where to install this. Alright, so it looks like we're going to be putting it in this mods folder. So let's go ahead and copy. Looks like I already have this, but let's go ahead and replace. Okay. And that should be working now. So now once we finish in Unreal Engine, the game should be able to read the mod file that we create. Okay. So we can close this. We can go ahead and close this as well. Okay, so going back to this tutorial, it's telling us how the mod loader works and how dress code works. But we're going to start by creating this metadata. Alright, so if we scroll down and we look at this metadata tab right here, it's going to show down in this picture that we're going to need like 2 folders. Technically, you can put your assets anywhere, but I think it also helps to just have everything organized. You will need this metadata folder though. So in our mod folder, we're going to create 2 folders, one called assets and one called metadata. Alright, so in this metadata folder, we're going to right click. If we go to miscellaneous, we can choose a data asset. And here we're going to type in _ mod metadata, which is this one right here. So if we select it and open it up, let's go ahead and name it DA mod metadata. So let's go ahead and just copy this, make our lives easier. Control A, delete, and paste. Alright, it does look a little bit different, but I think like once we like click out of this folder, do some other stuff, it will look like this mod metadata. Okay. So if we open up this file and we tick down on this metadata menu, it's gonna allow us to input some like information of the model. So in the friendly name, I'm gonna call it Glen Pirate. Oh, that's not spelled right. And Pirate, you can change the mod description. I'll just call it tutorial mod. Okay. You can change the author name again. And I guess you could put in a couple other stuff. I don't know if URLs are gonna work, simply because you're gonna see this information in the game. I don't even think it will let you click on a URL, but who knows. You could also change the thumbnail here, but I'm not gonna do that right now. So I'm gonna hit save, and I'm gonna close this out. Alright. It says that again, if you update a mod, you can go ahead and go into this mod metadata, and you can go ahead and change the version. So again, this is our version 1, so we will leave it as is. So again, importing custom assets is going to be done in our assets folder. So in this assets folder, you are going to go ahead and right click, and you're going to hit import. And you're gonna go ahead and go to the folder in which you saved your FBX. I went back and I fixed what I messed up on the last FBX I did in the fourth part of the tutorial. So I fixed my UV map names and I duplicated it correctly, but I can go ahead and just scroll to where that is. It's going to be in my mod files, and it's going to be this one. Alright, so a couple of things that we want in our FBX import settings. We can leave this ticked on because we want to import the mesh, and it is a skeletal mesh. Skeleton, you want that empty for now. Same thing with this. If we hit this show advanced, we are going to change compute normals to import normals and tangents. And if we scroll down a little bit more to this material section, we are going to hit do not create material, and we're going to untick import textures, simply because we're going to do that by hand, and we're going to take materials from PixMIs, which we're going to download in a second. So after all that is done, we can hit import. It's going to take a second. Alright, once it's done downloading, you may see like this message log. It's just talking about texture name clash, but we didn't even import any textures, so don't even worry about it. You can just exit that out. Alright, so in here, you can see a couple stuff talking about the mod loader, how it works. One important thing is that our skeletal mesh still has to reference the skeleton in the original game location. So we can't leave our skeleton here. We're going to have to move it into the original folder, and to do that we're going to use PixMIs to kind of dummy our folders out for us. That way we don't have to do it by hand. So let's go back into the server, and we're going to find where PixMIs are located. I believe that's in resources. Alright, yep. Alright, so this is going to be where his master materials are that Pete created. So we can go ahead and open it up. So the reason this is important is that it helps us dummy out materials that we're taking from the game. It also helps us create material instances. That way we can create our own custom materials, because the game just won't read us creating a material inside of Unreal Engine. We're going to have to dummy it out from Peak, and they were nice enough to create this directory, which contains all the dummy materials for basically all weapons, all characters, including non-playable, including like common character assets. So basically anything that you would use for a game in terms of character modding or weapon modding, we have in this PixMI. So to download it, we're going to go to this green button up here, the code, and we can hit download zip. So that's going to download. I think this is a pretty big folder, so it's going to take a little bit to download. Let me just click through here, see if I see anything. I believe it's the content file, so we can hit that. And then we see there's multiple different folders. I can see also included some environment things, but two things that we are going to need is that we're going to need the renderer folder and at least the first character folder. Alright, so I guess this is okay downloading. I will be back once this is done downloading. Alright, so it looks like the folder finished downloading. I can see right here. I'm going to go ahead and again move it into my Rebirth Modding folder. Alrighty, now that that is there, I'm going to go ahead and also extract it. I think it's a pretty big file, so I'm going to use WinRAR instead. Alright, and then once that's finished downloading, we can start to delete certain things from this folder, for sure at least. This is because this holds, as we can see here, a lot of stuff, including stuff from environment. And we're not doing any like static mesh editing or modding right now, so I can go ahead and delete that folder. Obviously, if you're going to do that, you can go ahead and keep those folders, but this is going to be a pretty big folder, I believe. So again, it's called UE project main zip. Alright, which is right here. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and open that up. Again, I'm going to get rid of that duplicate folder. Okay. So in this content folder, if I open that up, I can see that I have a couple of things in here. I don't need this environment folder. I know for sure I don't need it, so I'm going to go ahead and delete it. But we are going to need the renderer folder. So the way this works, in order to get this to show up in Unreal Engine 4 in this custom engine, we can't just copy over things from like the open project file. Instead, we need to find where the end project is, and we know that if we go back to here, let me just open up the Rebirth Modding folder again. We know that it is within, I believe, this folder. Go to, or actually, maybe it's in here. Yep, it's where our end project is. So it's going to be under this Final Fantasy VII R2 U project folder. So in here, we need to open up our contents folder. Is that our content folder? Yeah, because our content folder is empty. And to make sure that we know that we're in the right spot, we can go ahead and create a folder here called test. And we see that that is created here. So we know that we're in the right folder. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this since we're not using it. If you go here, we could also delete it here. Alright, so in this content folder in our U project, we are going to go ahead and copy over the renderer folder. We definitely need this, so go ahead and copy and paste. Okay, so we can go ahead and refresh this, but I'm not going to do it now. I'm going to do it after we copy over the files that we need from the character folder. But the renderer folder is necessary because this holds like the parent MIs, is what we call them, or the parent materials that we can see right here, and also in material instances. So these are important. We're definitely going to need these, so you definitely need the renderer folder. Just copy everything. It's best to just keep everything from the renderer folder. Okay, so going back to this, to our character folder, you can open this up, and here you could, go ahead and copy and paste everything from this folder, but that's a lot of content and a lot of stuff that we don't need right now. So I would just focus on copying over the folders that you need for the character that you're currently modding. So we are doing Cloud. So we're going to go ahead and find Cloud. He's going to be under Player. And we're going to use his standard folder for this. Reason being is that this is where his skeleton needs to be. And the way that we know where his skeleton needs to be, we can double check with Fmodel. So by opening up Fmodel, it's going to take a while to load. Once it loads, again, make sure you load all archives. And once that's done, we can go ahead and go back to where Cloud is under Character, Player. And again, remember we took Cloud Costa 2. So if we open him up, go into Model, we can see that we don't have any skeleton in this folder. But if we double click on the mesh that we extracted, which was this one, and we go ahead and look at this little table right here that gives us a lot of information about what the model uses. If we go here to where the skeleton information is, it will tell us where the skeleton is for this game. It's not going to be in this folder, it's going to be in his standard folder, which is why we're going to copy over that folder specifically. So to do that, we can, let's see, go to this folder, just have this open, and we're going to go ahead and copy this file path. We're going to create it by hand here. So again, from content, which is this, we're going to have character next. So let's type in character. Open that up. Next is player. And then from there, we are going to copy this folder. Alright, so we're just going to copy we're going to go back to that U project folder, and under character, player, we can paste in that cloud folder. Once we do, it may take a while, we might have to reload, but we should be able to reload. But since we're here, let's go ahead and also copy over the other two places that we need for those models that we took information from. So that was, again, Aerith, I believe it was her Loveless Sing model. So we don't need the actual skeleton for this because we're using Cloud Skeleton. Even though we did combine it with Dios and Aerith, it's still under Cloud Skeleton, quote unquote. What we are going to need from the two characters that we took information from, we took like bones and vertex groups from, we are going to need certain things in their model folder. So let's go ahead and copy over Aerith's Loveless Sing folder. Let me make this smaller, go back into player, scroll down until I see her Loveless Sing, and we're also going to copy that over into U project. Here we go. And then we're also going to need one more thing. So let's go back out into non-player and find Deal. I believe he was like 120 something. There we go, 123. So let's copy him, and we're going to go back and we're going to create a non-player folder. So we can't just copy him straight into here because he's not a player. We're going to create a non-player folder. Again, you can create this folder here, or you can do it over here in UModel. It'll be the same thing. Let me just make sure I'm writing this right. So this is going to be called non-player, and we're going to go ahead and paste in that Deal folder. Okay, now that we have all that, I guess we could refresh, see if it populates over here, but it doesn't look like it did. So we're going to go ahead and close this end project, and we're going to open it back up. Hopefully our character folders are in there, and also our renderer as well. So yeah, go ahead and save, because this is the information that we put in from our custom model that's within this custom folder. So just hit save. It's going to close, and let's open it back up again. Let me find my Rebirth folder, new project, and I like to make a copy of this just so it's easier to find. So I'm just going to go ahead and show more options. And I'm going to send a shortcut to desktop. That way it's easier for me to open. And we can make sure this works by opening up the shortcut instead. Alright, we see that it opened, and it did open up our folders that we pasted over, including our Geo one as well, and our renderer folder. So great. There's a couple of things we have to add, because I believe this doesn't hold a model folder, which we saw was a thing here in our cloud standard. Forget this was from the old way of modding things, but we are going to need this model folder. So in here, we can go ahead and create a new folder called model, and we're going to need to create this folder for cloud, for Aerith, and also for Dio. This is because we're going to need to dummy out some files that belong in this model folder. So let's start out with cloud. So with this open, we can go over to, I believe it's window, down to content browser, and we can create another content browser just so it's easier to move things over. I'm going to open up this panel, and I'm going to go back down to where we had our Glen content. So that was under assets. If you go back to the dress code tutorial. Again, it says that we are going to need the skeleton in the original game location, which again was that cloud standard folder right here, and we can see the skeleton is supposed to be in this cloud standard folder, and we see it right here, which means that we're gonna move the skeleton that we see here into this cloud standard model folder. So let's just go ahead and drag and drop, click move here, and it's going to move the skeleton over. If for some reason when you were exporting the FBX from Blender and you didn't rename it like the model was named in Fmodel, you may need to rename your skeleton. You can do that in Fmodel by just clicking, right click, copy, and package name without extension, and then you can just rename your skeleton. But because I had my FBX named correctly with that PC000-00, I don't need to rename my skeleton because it's named correctly. Alright, so now that that is there, we're going to go ahead and also just deal with our physics asset right away. So you may think that you can use this physics asset, but I already got a comment asking about this, and it's that if you try to use the physics asset that the model creates once it's imported into Unreal Engine, you're going to get a problem where your character is invincible. It can't get hit, it can't take any damage. This is because this physics asset doesn't actually exist. If you go into Fmodel, you can see that we don't have anything called a physics asset anywhere here. And if we look in the properties of the FBX or the model, and we can go ahead and Control F and look up physics. If we tap through, down here is where our physics asset is, and we see that the model actually uses something called common human 00_physics asset, and that's stored in this specific folder. So we are going to have to go ahead and create this folder. So back out into here, into our first content, and from character, we're going to create a new folder here called common. In the common folder, we're going to create a new one called physics asset. And do pay attention to how you spell things, because if there's anything spelled wrong, I think capitalization also matters, so just make sure that you are copying exactly how things are shown in Fmodel. And so in this folder is where we are going to copy over this physics asset. Even though it's named wrong, Unreal Engine allows you to just dummy out things. So we don't have to create a new physics asset. We can just move this one into this folder. And we can go ahead and find where this physics asset is. So back out into common, physics asset, and again it's this one. We can go ahead and copy package name without extension. Okay. And we can go ahead and rename this. And there we go. We have that there. If you are creating multiple mods, you don't have to recreate this. Instead, you can go ahead and open up your skeletal mesh. You can scroll down and you can just select the asset, the common human one, from here instead of recreating it. It doesn't matter if the preview shows a different character. Let's say you're modding Tifa next. It doesn't matter. It's the same for every playable character, and I believe it's the same for non-playable, but again, you could always just check by looking at Fmodel, seeing what physics asset that model uses. Okay, but for sure for any playable character, you are going to need that common human physics asset. Okay, so we can close this out for now. We have this in the right spot. Everything is saved so far. Oh, sorry, kind of jumped around. Alrighty. Next is we're gonna have to create some more dummy stuff in our model folder. And if we go back to Cloud and his model folder, we can see that we have a condition asset, a KDI, and a VFX, and a BNM as well. So we're going to need to create these 3 files in Blender. These also need to be saved in the original game location. I don't think off the top of my head you can have them in this custom folder, so let's just keep them in here because I know for sure they work if they are in this folder. Alright, so to create the first one, you're gonna go ahead and right click, and you are going to look for square X. Hold on, we got a couple of things in our way. Set that now. We're gonna need this kind driver data for sure. So this is gonna be our KDI. So what we can do is we can go up in here, we can again copy the name and paste it in here. Okay, another cool thing, again, Unreal Engine allows you to just copy things over and just rename, because again, this is just a dummy. This is just like a placeholder that the game reads, and then it actually uses the information from the game. So we don't have to mess with anything here. KDIs are related, I believe, to like bones and like bone movement. So if you know how to edit all that stuff, I guess you can edit this. But we're gonna leave it as is. So this is our first one. We are going to also need to create a BNM. So let's go ahead and try to find that one next. And we're gonna go ahead and find these. So one of them is under square X effect appendix mesh. So let's go ahead and find that. Alright, so I believe this is going to be our VFX file, but let's just make sure. Yes, this is going to be our VFX, this effect appendix mesh. So let's go ahead and copy that name from F model. There we go. Alright, and then we're missing one more. Let's go back to here. We need our BNM, which is a data asset. Okay. And then we're going to look up this bone AMI. So let's go ahead and do that. It's under miscellaneous, data asset, and we're going to go bone AMI asset. Alright, and then again, that's going to be named our BNM. So we can copy this and paste it here. Alrighty, so this is important in terms of allowing physics for the character, I believe the BNM, or is it the KDI? One of these. But we can go ahead and dummy these out. And instead of having to refine these, what we can do is go to Aerith's folder, because again, we need the physics from her skirt. We can open this up, and we see that she also needs a BNM, a KDI, but no VFX. That's fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this. We're going to make sure that we have her model folder available to us, and we are just going to copy it in here. Once we copy, all we have to do is rename this to Aerith's model in this folder. So let me do that really quick. And then I'm going to be lazy and just change this to KDI. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing with Dio. So let's find his folder again. Non-player. He's 123. There we go. And we're going to do the same thing. Make sure that this is available to us. Go ahead and copy that over and copy the name. And then change this one to, if it allows me, to KDI. Okay. He also has a VFX, so we can go ahead and copy that over from Cloud. I'll just copy it here, copy the name, change it. Okay, so now we have all of this all done, which means that now we can open up this character and we can start applying this. So this gets applied if we type in mesh. It opens up this skeletal mesh, and under asset user data we're going to hit plus, and we're going to look up I believe it's square x KBD asset user data. We can just recheck by looking at what's here. Let's see. Yep, square x KBD asset user data. Let me look that up again. Alright, so now that we selected that, we can drop down the 0 and this as well, and this is where we're gonna put in our BNM and our KDI. For VFX, you can only choose one, I believe, so I usually put in the model that I'm actually editing, their VFX. So I'm gonna just go ahead and drag and drop this right here. So now we have our VFX applied, and we're going to do our bone, our BNM next. As you can see, they're also color coordinated, but if you hit this drop down menu, it will show you what you could even put in this. When you do put things in, make sure you try to put it in the order in which, well, first the model that you're actually replacing, so cloud would be first. And then when you hit the plus here, I don't think it really matters, so you can just choose whichever character you want next. So I'll add in that one, and then one more for Aerith. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing with the KDI, which is this kind driver. We're going to choose cloud first, and actually I believe for KDI is related to like bone placement. I think we only need cloud, but let's see what happens if we also put in the KDIs for the rest of the characters. I'm going to keep the same order that I use for the BNMs. Okay, so that is all done. One more thing we're going to need is to create our condition asset. So back up here at asset user data, we're going to add in one more, and we can type in condition, and that creates our end character condition user data. So the condition model, if we go back into F model and we go back to clouds folder, the condition model is what allows you to use the petrification model. So this is why it looks like stone. This is what the game uses. So once this is open, you can open it up, and the way this works is it uses a skeletal model. So we can create a duplicate of this and call it condition. So let's do that. So go ahead and duplicate, and we can copy the name from here. There we go. And then from here we can go ahead and open this up. Alrighty, so we're going to start using the dummy materials, the dummy MIs from Peaks folder. I believe the MIs for this should be under this render folder, but we could always look at Fmodel to see where it takes the materials. So it looks like most of it is under some common folder. So let's go ahead and find that back in our Peaks MIs folder. So let's go back to this common folder. If we look at F model, what does it say? That the main common condition rock is under materia, or is it common condition material common condition rock. Okay, so let's just go back a little bit, and we're gonna go ahead and copy this folder, this condition folder. So we can copy, and then back in here, again under, let's say character, common, we can go ahead and paste this in. Let's see if it showed up in Unreal Engine. Common condition, there is our common condition rock. If you want to be lazy like me, you can go ahead and just place this over every single option. There's some that allow you to have like transparency, but again, this is like a rock model. It's going to be like stuck in game, and most of the time you're not even going to be looking at this character because you're going to switch off to another character that's not petrified. So you could go ahead and just use this for all the material slots. If you really wanted to, you can go ahead and find Cloud's eyebrow, I think hair, he has one for like eyelash up here that you could use. So then you also have transparency in those, but I personally don't think it's necessary, so I'm just going to go ahead and use this material instance for all of my slots. The way I do that is just by dragging and dropping, and I'm going to go ahead and drop it into each material that I have. You're not going to see any textures applied because again, this is a dummy MI, so it doesn't have any textures applied, and even when we do apply textures to an MI, we're not going to be able to see it in game. I think there was a plugin that YIIS created that allows you to preview materials in Blender, but that's not really necessary, so I'm not going to do it. Alright, once I have those all applied, I can hit save all. It's going to save everything that we haven't saved so far, which is fine. And now we're done with our condition. One thing that we may have to change, I don't think we do though, because we duplicated this after we applied all the VFX, all the BNMs, all the KDIs, and the correct physics asset. But if for some reason you created this duplicate for the condition first, you may have to go back and change your physics asset and also do the same thing up here with your KDIs and your drivers and all that stuff. You don't need a condition model for the condition model, so we can leave that blank. But if we hit save and we go back to our actual game model, we can go ahead and choose the condition model from here. That way the game knows to use this model when you're petrified. So we can hit save. We can close our condition model. Alright, so the next thing that we have to do is we need to go ahead and create our custom MIs. So under our assets folder where our skeletal mesh is, I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this, new folder. I'm going to call this Glen Textures. Alright. So in this folder is where I'm going to go ahead and drop all the textures that we created. Again, I think we already made sure we had the textures in the right format already, so they should be in this Pirate Glen folder. Again, we're going to need this new face, so I'm going to go ahead and select all of these, and also the ones for his hair and for his body. So let me just go ahead and select all of these, and also this black dummy one. Go ahead and open that. One thing I'm missing is that missing a normal map for the hair, so let me go ahead and find that. I have an extra one in one of my documents folders, so I'm just gonna go ahead and copy that over. There we go. This is just a blank normal map. Scoot in. It's very, very tiny. Alright. So, about textures. Most of the time, Unreal Engine will be able to read a normal map as a normal map. So it will change your compression settings automatically to normal map. I don't know if you saw, there were a couple of notifications down here telling you that it recognized normal maps as a normal map. If for some reason that doesn't happen, you can go ahead and just change compression settings by clicking on the texture and going down here and making sure you choose normal map. But it did that for all of my normal maps, as I can see under compression settings there. Okay, so I can just save all my textures really quick. There's one thing that we are going to have to do. Oh, and I didn't import my color maps. So let me do that really quick. Where are they? They're right here and right here. Okay. So now that those are imported, we're going to have to change a couple of settings in our non-color maps. It's just a really small setting. We can leave compression settings at default. Some people change it to, I don't know, I think it's like masks. But all you have to do to prevent this or your model from being very glossy in game is just to untick sRGB. We're going to have to do that for every non-color map. We don't have to do it for the normal map because, again, that's in a different compression setting. But for all your non-color maps, just go ahead and do that really quick. Alright, so once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and hit save over here just so it saves all of them instead of having to do it by hand. I'm going to close out all these textures. And we are missing just one texture that I didn't create in the first part of this tutorial, and that is my alpha map, my opacity map for my hair. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Photoshop to create this. Since the game or the original model of Glenn didn't come with it, because the opacity is just stored within the color map. Unfortunately, Rebirth doesn't read alpha maps that are stored within the color map, so we're gonna have to open it up ourselves. So I'm gonna go ahead and find that really quick. I'm gonna untick this, and in my channels it's my alpha map right here. So what I'm gonna do is Control A, Control C, create a new layer. I'm gonna paste that in, and I'm gonna just export this layer by itself. I'm gonna call that hair A, since that's my alpha map. Okay. Back in here, I'm gonna import that in, making sure to untick sRGB. Alright, so now all my textures should be good enough. Next thing, we're gonna create our dummy MIs. So opening up Cloud, going to his materials folder, you can see that he has a bunch of materials here. He has some skin materials, which use a different parent. As you can see down here, it says the parent for skin is going to be this RMI surface skin wide detail, or and for hair, we're going to use RMI surface standard hair wide. And for like regular clothes, it's just going to use RMI surface standard wide. I think for hair, it's supposed to use also a coverage. So we're going to choose that ourselves. But we're going to create just one duplicate for now. So to create a duplicate MI, all you have to do is right click on one of the peaks MIs and just hit duplicate. You can name this duplicate whatever you want. We're going to call this Glenn Hair for now, and we're going to move it over into our Glenn texture folder. Alright, once we're in here, it looks like Glenn has 3 textures that we need. We need one for the hair, which we already created, one for the body, and one for the face. So let's go ahead and create 2 more duplicates, renaming them as needed. Alright, once those are created, we can open up our first one. Let's open up our body first, since this is kind of like the simplest MI that we can create. Based off of what cloud MI you chose to duplicate, you will have different textures ticked on already. So this was just for like a basic clothing texture. So it only has stuff like color, if we scroll down, metallic, normal, and roughness ticked on, as well as our occlusion map. So if we go over to Glenn, we should have all 4 of those textures available to us. So let's go ahead and plug them in to where they belong. So wide occlusion is going to be our occlusion map. If we scroll up, roughness is going to be this MG. Normal map is going to be right here. Metallic goes there. And our color map is right up here. Alrighty. If we scroll down, we can see that it uses this parent MI or MI surface standard wide. This is, I think, good enough to use for anything, unless you're going to use like a face where you might want more detail and more maps. But for like clothing, this is what the game uses anyway, so it's good enough for clothes. So that parent is fine. We don't have to change the parent, so all we have to do is save. Obviously, we don't see any material preview here, which is fine. The game will still read it. Alright, so next let's do hair. So again, it's duplicated off the same cloud MI, but we are going to have to tick something on, and this is going to be needed for anything that has transparency. And now I am actually reminded that this Glenn body texture also has transparency. So let's go ahead and save an alpha from that as well. So let's go ahead and open up his body texture. And let's save this alpha channel. Alright, let's go ahead and re-import that into Blender. I'm sorry, Unreal Engine. Again, making sure that the sRGB is unticked. Let's go ahead and save that. And going back into this body, we are actually gonna have to edit this parent MI. First, let's scroll all the way up. You're gonna see something right here called coverage. Coverage is where our alpha map goes. Don't be confused with, if we scroll down, we might see something called opacity. That's not where our alpha map goes. And same thing with transparency. It does not go there. It goes in our coverage slot. In terms of how we know that, I guess we can take a look at fmodel to see if it tells us. If we go to cloud and we go to his material folder and we select his hair, if we close this out and we start looking through his materials and their names, we can see that his alpha map is under the name coverage, which is why we input our alpha map under coverage in Unreal Engine. Okay. So now that we have that there, if we try to put this in game, we're not going to have transparency work, and that is because we're using the wrong parent. So we need to use RMI surface standard wide coverage. So I'm going to start writing, I believe it's standard, I think it's coverage wide. There we go. So this is the MI that you need whenever you have transparency in something. I think hair uses a different parent MI. We can take a look in fmodel, but I've had better luck using this material instance, this parent material, this standard coverage wide with hair than I have with whatever the hair actually uses. So I'm going to hit save there. So now when we show this in game, the body should have transparency, and we're going to change it as well in here. So we're going to make sure we tick coverage on, that way we can have our alpha map here. We can go ahead and put in the rest of our textures. So again, no metallic, so we're going to use that blank one. We're going to use this blank normal map as well. Our roughness is right here, and our occlusion is here. Let's go ahead and change this to standard coverage wide. Okay, with that selected, we're good. I guess if we look in F model, if we go all the way up to the top, it will tell us which parent it uses. It uses a surface hair wide. But for some reason, I don't know why, I've definitely tried that before and it didn't work as well for me. Maybe you can try it out, maybe it does work for you. But I'm going to use what I know works, which is this parent MI. Alright, so now that I have that saved, we are done so far creating 2 MIs. We're going to have to create one more for his face. Okay, I did create a duplicate based off of the first body, but we can go back into Cloud, into his materials folder, and we can find his face, or is it called head? Yeah, head. We can create a duplicate of this. We can call this, let's call it new Glenn face. Let's copy that over into our Glenn textures folder, or move it over. And if we open it up, we can see that this has much more textures ticked on. This is because the face itself uses more textures than the regular 4 that we have, the regular 4 that we have for clothing. So for this, we're gonna go ahead and take our head, put it in our color map. This detail map, we didn't create one, which is fine, because we know that this head is using the same UV layout as Cloud. We don't need to create our own detail map. Instead, we can use what the game has, and the game, in terms of using this peak MI, is going to dummy out this texture for us, so we can leave it as is. We don't need to touch it. Same thing with this detail normal. As long as we don't touch it, it will show up in game. If we scroll down, we can create our own metallic map, which we have. So I'm going to go ahead and paste it here. We're going to use our own normal map. This pores, again, we don't have an MB map. That's fine. We can leave it as is. Our roughness map, we will take though. And same thing with our occlusion. We're going to go ahead and use the one that we created. Alright, so it's again using the correct parent material, which is going to be for skin detail. So we don't have to touch that. That's the correct material that we want to use for face or for any type of skin. For Glenn, his arms were already a part of his color map, so we're gonna leave it as is. We're not gonna use this this material for it. We're fine how we have it. So we can go ahead and hit save. Since we didn't use this material instance, I'm gonna go ahead and just delete it. Okay, so now if we go back to our skeletal mesh, if we delete what was written up here in our search bar, we can start inputting in our materials to the model. Again, we're not going to see a material preview, but it will work in game. So first is our eye material. So again, we were going to use Cloud's eyes, so we can just go down here, and if we search up eye, if we scroll down, we can see Cloud's eye material. Even though it has a different name from what we had in game or what we had in Blender, that's fine because Cloud uses the same eye material for all of his models. so we know that this would work. Okay. Also another thing, let's say you wanted to give your mod a different eye color, but you wanted it over cloud still. Let's say you wanted red eyes like Tifa's. You could still use Tifa's dummy MI, simply because all eyes in this game are the same. All you would have to do is just make sure that you copy over Tifa's folder, make sure that it's within the game, and then you should be able to choose Tifa's eye texture. Okay. Alrighty. So if we hit isolate, we can tell what the material is specifically. So I can see that this is my I'm sorry, my hair material. So that means I'm gonna place this MI in this slot. Glenn head is obviously, I think, gonna be my head, so I'm gonna place that one there. And this one's my body, so I'm going to place that there. Alright. So again, eyelashes was something that we took from Cloud. If we type in eyelash, we can find clouds here, so we can place that there. And mouth. Let's see, do we have that one? No, we don't. Alright, which means that we're gonna have to find the folder in which the mouth is in. So going back here to our common folder, I'm guessing it's gonna be under mouth. And it is. Alright, so all we're gonna do is copy over this folder called mouth. Again, it's gonna be under common. We're gonna paste that there. If you go up here, you should see it now in here. And if we open this up, we have our common mouth. We can just copy it over. Alright, so now we've applied all of our textures, including dummy ones from the game, and also our custom textures as well. Alright, so because we're using this alpha kit, as long as they're within this custom folder, I don't think we have to save or use chunks anymore. If you were doing this the old-fashioned way, you would have to use chunk IDs, but I don't think we need to anymore. Let's go ahead and look at this tutorial again, now that we've kind of gone off of it for a little bit. So we did create our mod metadata. Yeah, let's go ahead and do this. Alright, if I this one, same thing with this one. We created our mod metadata, which is in here. We already did our imports of our custom assets. We created our own MIs, and we also referenced our BNMs and stuff. Okay, so we're gonna need one more. So I think this one can be placed anywhere, but I'm gonna keep it in my metadata folder. So I'm gonna again look for miscellaneous, and in data asset we're gonna type in PDA mod metadata, or no, sorry, mod, what is it? Oh, I guess we can choose. So again, this is a character, so we're going to choose mod data character. We're going to select that. And I believe this can be called whatever we want. So we can go ahead and call this Glenn. Alright. So let me just make sure. Yeah, this doesn't go here. Let me just close out these extra tabs. Alright, if we open up this Glenn data, we can go ahead and we know that the mod type is a character. If we hit this plus, it will open up this drop down menu. And in general data, again, we can put the name of the mod. So Glenn Pirate. We can add a description, tutorial mod. And this is where we can actually put in a preview image. So I'm going to go back into my Glenn textures folder, or actually back into my assets folder. I guess I don't have a picture of this yet, so I'm going to open up Blender. And once Blender opens, I'm just going to take a little screenshot of my model so I can put that in game. Obviously, if you know how to make nice renders, you can put a nice render in here. I would say though that the size of the image isn't like a perfect square. Let's see, I don't think, does he tell you here? I don't know if he does. I think someone mentioned it in the server, so you could ask in there if you want to know exactly what size the preview image is. I'm just gonna take a dirty screenshot of this and hope for the best. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and import in that screenshot that I took. Screenshots, scroll down, there it is. Okay, and then I can go ahead and just place that in there. Alright, once that's placed in there, I already changed this. I can open up the skeletal mesh data. Again, the character that we're modding is Cloud. If for some reason you were doing a different character, you can go ahead and change it here. And our skeletal mesh, we are gonna go ahead and we can just, place over our skeletal mesh. I believe this character or this actor type is empty. Based off of this picture, it looks like it's supposed to be empty. Okay. Nothing to put in additional data, at least for us. So we're gonna leave that empty. Okay. So we can go ahead and save this. Go ahead and save that. So it looks like actor is not used by Dresscode. So last thing is we just have to package. We're almost done. So go ahead and hit save all. Make sure everything is saved. We made sure that everything was in the right spot before we, edit it into our skeletal mesh. So everything should work. If it doesn't, we'll come back and we'll try to fix it. Alright, but the package, all we have to do is open up Alpha and select the mod that we're gonna edit, and all we gotta do is hit applicate. So it's gonna package, and again, it's gonna end up right in the folder that we need to, but once it's done packaging, we can go ahead and check that out. Alright, so it looks like it finished packaging. It took a while. I think the first one always does. So we can go ahead and make sure that this is in the right folder. So I'm going to go down to my common where I have all my games downloaded anyway. Open up Rebirth. And again, it's not going to be in our content where our usual mods are placed, because again, this is Dresscode, and Dresscode is going to be under this end mods folder. And we called it Glen Pirate over Cloud. So it did copy it over like we have it checked into the game. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and close this. And I will always say close this Alpha Kit menu, especially if you're going to use controller, because for some reason controller also messes with Unreal Engine. So make sure you close this for sure. Because I've had that open before, opened up the game, tried to open up Dresscode, and it accidentally deleted some files from Dresscode, so don't do that. Alright, so let's go ahead and play the game and see if this mod works.